Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I am a massive fan of the Last of Us video game. There is only one, and I'm a massive fan of it. I've played it through probably 6 or 7 times. It has one of the greatest stories in video game history, and that's the selling point on it. The gameplay isn't really all that fascinating or anything like that. So when the TV show was initially announced, I admit I felt a little bit of excitement because it has a story that's perfect for film or television. And then I remembered what year it was and knew exactly what was going to come out of it and exactly the changes that were going to be made, especially after the disaster, narratively speaking, that The Last of Us Part 2 was, especially for the characters of Joel and Ellie. And it seems like everything that I predicted, everything that I saw coming upon that announcement is proved correct, and the show's not even out yet. It's a week away, and the showrunners, the directors, the actors are all saying major red flag stuff, and I'm very disappointed in this because I would love a Last of Us TV show. It is an incredible story. I want to see that story come to life in a way that we hadn't seen before. Again, I do believe that video games are perhaps the best medium for engaging stories because it physically puts you in the story with the characters, but there are things to be gained from a television adaptation of a video game like this, but that's just not the direction that these showrunners, these writers are coming at it from. There are a few pieces of good news throughout these articles that I'm going to bring up in a moment here, and specifically the involvement of the Chernobyl writer or director. He is very talented, so perhaps there will be some semblance of good out of it. And when that first initial teaser trailer came out like 3 or 4 months ago, I admit I did like the aesthetic of it. It had no story in it whatsoever, but it got the aesthetic of the game right. And then the first main trailer came out and destroyed any of my hopes that I had for it. So Chernobyl guy may not even be enough to save this for me because there's been other shows that have been written by competent people who go on to write garbage, specifically Jennifer Hutchinson. I mean, Rings of Power and Breaking Bad, kind of hard to go from such a high to such a very low. But there are several pieces of news I want to briefly talk about, and the top of them is one of the showrunners for The Last of Us says death in a game means less because it's just watching pixels die. And that is a completely ignorant perspective and one that misunderstands your target demographic. If you're insulting the source material, you're not going to be enticing those diehard fans that you should be enticing before anybody else to watch your product. That is something that we've seen on Hollywood a ton in recent years, is the constant berating of the source material and anyone who enjoyed the source material for what it originally was. Now, I completely disagree with this because in the end, you know, a TV show is still just pixels. That's how it comes up on your TV, and it's actors pretending to die. So why is that any more meaningful? The truth is it's not. It's narratively speaking. We can attach to characters if they have a good story, and so their death means something. So we're already starting out really good with The Last of Us showrunner, screenwriter, coming out and saying some really out-of-touch stuff about the source material, insulting fans, insulting the source material, and just really not starting things off from a good foot. And we don't continue with anything better because The Last of Us has removed most of the video game's violence. Of the gameplay stuff, the violence was some really heavy stuff, especially the end of death animations before you had to respawn or whatnot. Those were some quite violent and riveting moments that really lend credence to the risk factor of the situation that the characters were enduring through. Some really powerful stuff, and violence is a key aspect of it. So they're neutering a lot of the impact, the fear, the tactics involved in a story like this to draw emotions out of the audience. They're taking away that major cornerstone of it. So that's a big piece of the story that's gone. What else are they going to take away if they're not willing to keep that key of an aspect of it? And apparently, they're going to change some more. So one of the characters, well, actually several of the characters, but one of the prominent characters is gay. The character that is going to be played by Nick Offerman, Bill, in the game, he was gay, and nobody gave a shit because it was well written and incorporated into the story well, and they didn't just constantly virtue signal about it. It's just like, that's my partner. Oh, I have a gay porn magazine. It wasn't about telling the audience something, preaching to the audience, delivering a message. It was just, hey, this character happens to be gay. But it looks like they're going to be expanding his role in the series to a major portion of the season, specifically because of the diversity quotas he fulfills. And that really bothers me because he only has a small portion to play in the initial parts of the game. Same thing with the character of Tess. Apparently she's going to be in more than half of the season, and she's only at the very beginning, even less than Bill's character. So we're already off to a start where we're getting more diversity in there to protect the, white girl main character. And that's not okay with me. Because if that is the case, it takes away from the key aspect of the game, the key emotional draw, which is the father-daughter relationship of the game. If you're constantly expanding the roles of these side characters that weren't all that important or impactful beyond their few scenes, then you're taking away from the time needed to develop that incredible relationship, which carries the story. So again, another major portion of it, less of the father-daughter relationship, less of the violence, to the pillars of The Last of Us, gone. Well, we're really off to a great start before this even comes out. And apparently, Bella Ramsey, who I'm not a fan of in the role, there's not a single point of casting besides Nick Offerman as Bill that I like in the role. And of course, Marlene, who's playing the same character that she did in the original video game, same actress involved. Those two are the only ones that actually look like their roles and seem like they're good for it. Bella Ramsey is not the right person for the job. She doesn't have the chops for it. She looks fine enough, well enough for the part. They got her look right at least, but they told her not to play the games. And this is something that I'm sick and tired of in modern adaptations, is this constant need to divorce yourself from the source material. Yes, you want the people involved to be fans. That should be near a requirement. And if not a requirement, require them to do the research involved, because you need to be a fan to know the valuable parts of a product or a character to know what needs to endure through an adaptation like this. If you don't know anything about the character of Ellie, you won't know why people love her. And if you don't know why people love her, you can't replicate that and get that emotional connection back from the diehard fans. It is just a complete asinine approach that all of Hollywood gaming, all of them are having in current day. For example, the whole Doctor Who stuff with Jodie Whittaker, she was also told, and she actually did not participate in any of the previous shows. She never watched anything. She didn't read anything. She was just, oh, I'm me, and then me's good. And that led to a disastrous product that everyone hated summarily. And the same thing's going to happen here with Bella Ramsey's character, because she doesn't know the valuable aspects of Ellie's character. Moving on, we have the spores are gone. The spores are gone. Another horror aspect of it, another atmospheric aspect of this show that makes it so intimidating in the game is the spores aspect, because it's a very unusual aspect of zombie lore to have spores that can infect you with the zombie virus. That is incredibly unique, near only to The Last of Us, and it creates some really claustrophobic scenarios where you have to put on the gas mask, the camera comes in, the lights lower. It's really good for the horror factor. The spores are a great explanation for the horror factor and are used to showcase Ellie's immunity to the virus to Joel. It's a very important aspect of the story, and it's a very important aspect to the aesthetic and important aspect to the horror. So we've got horror, violence, and character work all summarily destroyed. How does this resemble The Last of Us in any way, shape, or form? I'm not seeing any Last of Us. And then you include in the casting of the other characters like Pedro Pascal, who's going to be awful in the role. He's not Joel in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't look like the role. He doesn't act like the role. He is not Joel. And so we have all the key aspects of the story gone, are not getting adapted. This is going to be a disaster of untold proportions. It's not going to be The Last of Us. And I wanted there to be hope. It's such an incredible story. But even from those first moments, after that first initial gut reaction, I knew my logical mind took over and said, no, this is going to be a disaster. It might not be a woke disaster. We don't know if it's going to be woke. There might have been some wokeness behind some of the decisions made, but maybe it won't be woke. It's just going to be bad and definitely a horrific adaptation. And continuing, we still have more. There's not going to be any more from the games. And this is actually the one piece of good news that I wanted to talk about, is one of the creators of the show said they will not be just doing the show forever. They're just going to do the games. That's a bit of a red flag. There's only one game. There's no Last of Us Part 2. But at least I do like his comments here. Professional motion machine. Some stories need to be tight. They need to be one and done, like the Joker, in my opinion, or The Last of Us. The original Last of Us should not have had any sequels. Just a 4-episode miniseries is all The Last of Us should have ever been. But I do like that perspective to a certain extent from the showrunner. So I did want to include a bit of a positive news right before I bring down the final nail in the coffin from Last of Us. This is just a theory that Screen Rant has, and apparently it's supported by some pretty good evidence. You can check out their article for that evidence. But apparently it's incredibly problematic that 2 black characters are introduced, 2 brothers in the game are introduced. They're actually a really cool part of the story, really showed as a mirror of what Joel and Ellie are before they die. One of them gets infected. The older brother, has to shoot his younger brother, and then he shoots himself. It's a really heart-wrenching situation that really shows you what the broader world is like and how much people are afraid of this virus infecting someone that they love. It is an essential aspect of world building, these characters. But guess what? It's problematic because, black on black violence, everyone. Oh my god, cancel the first Last of Us. And so they're not going to be faithful to that aspect of the story, at least, and Screen Rant is happy about that. There's nothing accurate about the story so far. There's nothing accurate about the game so far. There has been no proof that this is Last of Us besides the name on the posters and at the end of the trailers. If they're not willing to adapt the story, why not make an original property about zombies? Oh, right, they're too lazy to, and it creates a problem in marketing for them because they don't think anyone will watch something that isn't based off a pre-existing property. And that's proven to not be the case in so many situations. Like Chernobyl was a massive success. It was not a big mainstream IP that people were familiar with, and yet it was beloved. There are tons of other examples of it, but apparently modern Hollywood is just incredibly stupid and incredibly lazy, and this is just the next entry in the constant string of adaptation failures from people who do not understand and do not wish to understand either the source material or the fans who have built these franchises into the juggernauts that they're trying to feed off of. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? Oh, I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.